Hello and welcome to the Career Changers. Our guest today is Elena Mellara, career coach for the career conflicted. In her own words, I support career conflicted professionals in need to figure out their next steps. I'm also a career changer or twister, as I like putting, as after 20 years in corporations covering roles in pricing and forecasting, I felt my heart was not in numbers anymore, but into people. That's why I twisted my career into coaching. Today, Elena is going to share her wisdom and career change story with us. Hi, Elena. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Elisa. Thank you for having me.
So let's start a little bit with your background. How did you start your professional life? Or better, what was your first job?
My first real job was in customer service on shifts of 24 hours. So it was a pretty high-paced job where basically we needed to be very fast, but also we needed really to understand what we needed to do in order to help the people that were calling us, the customers who were calling us. Yeah, so that was my first job.
What was your dream job when you were a child?
When I was a child, because I told to my mom when I was 6 that I wanted to communicate with people in other languages, I wanted to be a professional translator. So that was my dream job when I was growing up. And I pursued it until I was 17. So up until 17, if you would have asked me, what would you like to do when you're a grown up? I would have said, I would be a professional translator. And then I realized that I didn't like translating. So it was kind of a, ooh, okay. So I didn't like translating the ideas and the thoughts of other people. So I said, no, I do have my own thoughts and my own ideas. So why would I want to translate somebody else's? And then I shifted into political science and being a diplomat.
So what is your educational background?
My educational background is in political science, international law. So anything which has to do with law and internationalities in general is my background, and yeah, I loved it. I wouldn't trade it for the world if I was going back and choose another time.
So we are here to talk about career change, of course. How and when did you start thinking about becoming a coach? That is your actual career.
Yes, I started thinking to become a coach in 2019. So it's pretty a recent twist that I've done. And it was the whole thing sparkled because I wasn't happy in my last corporate job. Although I was head of a department and I loved my co-workers to bits. I mean, we were an international team. I chose them. I hired them personally. And then at some point, I said, as you mentioned in the intro, yeah, I'm doing too many numbers, but I love more to the people. And then I understood that HR was the direction. And then talking to a friend of mine who is a super duper recruiter, he just, came up with, yeah, this is what you can do in HR. There is not just the recruiting side of it, but there is also the coaching and training side of it. And I thought, that might be good to do it, or it might be good to think about it. And then I talked to people who were already a coach and asked them, how do you become a coach? Because I didn't know anything about it. For me, it was a super, blank, and I didn't know anything about it.
So how did you transition from one career to the other?
Yeah, what happened is that I felt sick, which helped in one way and didn't help in another, because when you're sick, it's difficult to to concentrate on something new and to be very excited about something new. But I managed that in a way, and I identified a school which was giving me a global international certificate, because I said to myself, I'm not an imposter. If I want to do things, I want to do things the right way. And therefore, I found a school, and then I enrolled in the school. And after exams, a lot of exams, at least 100 hours of coaching and papers and tests, then I became a coach. So I became a coach in the middle of the pandemic, which was kind of intriguing in a way.
Yeah, and probably many people were looking for support.
Indeed.
The career changes aim to inspire people during their journey to self-realization. And of course, this is a journey that is not as easy and smooth of someone who want to make us think. Success is not a linear process. So what challenges did you have to overcome to transition career?
The first one was to really understand what I really wanted to do, but also what I was good at doing it, because it's easy to say, well, yeah, I identified HR. Yeah, but then in HR, again, there are many, many different sides of the HR. I could have easily done, HR analytics. I could deal with numbers anyway, and it was HR, so why not? But then, so that was the first thing. So really understanding what I wanted. That was the first challenge to overcome. Of course, when you're doing and you're enrolling in a school, there is the excitement to be and to learn new things and to really hear the clicks inside of you of what they're teaching you at school. The exams, for sure. I mean, doing 100 hours coaching when you've never done coaching before, it's not a piece of cake. You really need to work hard to do it, and then to pass the exams as well was the other thing to overcome. And the third thing was to be recognized as a coach by other coaches who could tell me at some point, hey, I have this project, why don't you come and work with me? So these were the hardest things to overcome when I transitioned.
So today, part of your work is to help career conflicted professionals. Can you tell us more about what you do?
Sure. What is the most exciting part of my job? Of course, is coaching, and my clients, they are me few years back. Yeah. So they have this feeling, itchy feeling, that they realize they don't like their job anymore. They're frustrated in some ways because they're doing tasks they don't want to do anymore. And sometimes they're angry, so they provoke managers and colleagues so that, yeah, maybe they can fire me and I'm out of the job and I can do something else. And so they come to me and they don't know what to do next. So they really don't know what is their next step. And then I help them identify those next steps, which can be, in some cases is to find same role, different company, type of direction. But the other direction, which is usually I'm witnessing happening more and more in these days of pandemic, it's also, I want to do and twist my career into a totally new profession. And I've had clients going from, I don't know, finance to app developer, or from public, from a governmental role into a private corporation doing the legal department. And yeah, so these are the type of career conflicted professionals I'm helping in these days. It's very exciting.
So what I really like about your work is that you are talking a lot about strengths and how to turn strengths into superpowers. A topic that I find very exciting, especially on the 6th day of January, where we are all thinking about the year ahead. So let's talk a little bit about this. And to start, as individuals, what do we need to look at to understand which are our strengths?
We need to do something which is not, we're not trained to do. We need to look at ourselves, and we need to look at ourselves in a way that we need to observe what we really like to do. It sounds like, yeah, Elena, come on, everyone says that. But have you ever thought what you really like to do and what you really like to do it and you're very good at? Yeah. So it is something that we do usually don't think about it, because we don't often think about ourselves in that way. So that's the first step if we want to identify the strengths that we do have. And what you will come up with most likely is going to be a list of things. Not all of them might be strength, because, for example, being a team player is not a strength. But being able to include everyone in a team is a strength. So that there is a nuance. So you will come up, you think about that, you will come up with a list, and that list is just the beginning, and the advice is to start digging. So don't just stop yourself at this question, what you really like to do and what you love to do, but just try to go underneath the surface and go a little bit deeper.
So is there a way to turn, well, of course there is, because this is what you do, but I'm gonna ask you, which is the way to turn our strengths into superpowers?
Yes. There is a tool which I like a lot, and all of my clients, when we're working together, they are doing it and they're loving it, which is the Strength Finder from Gallup. This is an older version, but for the ones who will see the video and the podcast. So that's my basic. That's the basis of the tools, because it gives you not just a list of your specific strengths, but it gives you also the explanation of how you come across when you have those strengths. Yeah, so it's basically putting yourself, well, the book is putting in their shoes of the people with their strengths and describing them in the book. You don't need to read the whole book, you just need to buy the book, take the test, and then you will have a report which will be sent to you by email, and then you basically start from there. So then you will have your list that you compiled because you asked yourself the question that we talked about before, and then you have this tool which is much more scientific, and Gallup is very famous, so it's a well-known tool, which is the start.
So you usually think that the other side of our strengths are our weaknesses. Is that correct?
I would say that on the other side of our strengths, there are triggers. So basically, I'll give you an example. I am an includer. So it means that if I am in a room with 10 people, most likely after an hour, all 10 people will talk together, and everyone will be in harmony and everyone will know each other. Same thing when I'm doing the webinar. For sure, 100% of the times I will ask to everyone to talk and speak, even if they are super, super introvert and super shy. So being an includer, it means that when somebody excludes me, it makes me snap, and that's the trigger. Yeah. So that's not a weakness, it's really a trigger. And then I start thinking, oh my God, why that person excluded me? What did I do to him or to her? What did I do to deserve that? And you go into this rabbit hole of, a little bit of asking yourself things while, yeah, and it's a trigger. And sometimes friendships are ruined because of that. So it's a powerful trigger in a negative way.
This wasn't 3 years before, but I'm curious to ask you this question. Hopefully I'm not putting you on the spot. Can you give us an example of a strength that can be turned into a superpower?
Good one. Okay. Yes. So a client of mine, one of her strengths is being analytical, and she also had the strength. Now I need to look it up because I need to say it really as it is. She is also a relator. Yeah, according to the strength finder. And being a relator means that you will get to know the people who are known to you, so not total stranger, and you want to get to know them better. And she was having a lot of difficulties with one of her colleagues, to the point that she was going to her boss and say, I cannot work with him because he doesn't listen to me, and all this type of thing. So, and she was having not only a very bad time, but she was putting herself in a spot where the managers were looking at her to be a difficult person, because whenever the colleague asked her something, her answer was, no, that's not me. No, I won't do it. So when she understood that she was a relator, I challenged her and I said, okay, so how can you apply your relator strength with your colleague whom you don't cope? And she actually succeeded the thing. So she really turned it into superpower, because first by intent. So she went talking to him for working things, and she also went asking him things like, how are you today? And about his family. And it turned out that the guy, well, it's a he, her colleague was here alone. He was working here alone, and the family was away. So by being a relator, yeah, so just simply by being a relator and really training the relator strength, she turned it into a superpower. And now she can do that. She can recognize when this trigger of, oh my God, I cannot understand this person. And then not this person in particular, because that has solved, but if she has the same situation, then she can understand it and she can overcome it. So that's, to me, is a strengthening of a strength into a superpower.
That sounds really interesting, and it seems like a lot of work as well. I can imagine how much we can dig into ourselves to understand our strengths and how we can turn them into superpowers. Yeah. So if we go back a little bit to your career, do you have any interesting or funny stories to share with us about your multiple careers?
Oh my God. Interesting stories. Well, I would say I wouldn't say interesting stories, but go looking at the 20 years, my God, 20 years, looking at the 20 years, I would say I could see a constant, a pattern, which was being totally immersed into international and multinational situations. And to the point, and maybe that's a funny story, that my latest team, which I had the privilege to hire, we were all of different, from different countries. And when we were having lunch together at the cafeteria, which here in the Netherlands is quite terrible, mostly all of them are terrible. So we would bring food from home. And because we were from different nationalities, we often have had food from our own countries. So our table was always filled with food, different food. We would eat all different type of food because it was, oh yeah, my Indian colleague, she would say, oh, I made this, just I made paneer today, just grab a bite. And my Spanish one would say, oh, my mom made taco, why, this is one and this is for you. And or asked her to do more because those are for you. So this was what I really, really appreciate in my corporate life, the internationality of it all.
So let's give some tips now to our followers and listeners that are here, of course, because they are, soul searching and trying to understand what is going to be their next move or what to do next. So what type of advice would you give to anyone along their path to self-realization?
Okay. What comes into my mind is give yourself the chance to meet the type of professional that you can become. And by saying that, what I mean is that if you feel that you cannot do your job anymore, start talking. First of all, you're not alone. There is a whole trend called the Great Resignation. If you never heard about it, just Google it, and you will have a lot of articles from many different magazines. First of all, you're not alone. Give yourself the chance to really dig into really what you would like to do, and start talking. Start talking to people who've done already a pivot. Start, talking to, because those people, they are a couple of steps ahead of you, and this means that they overcome few obstacles already, and they can give you advice. They don't have to be people doing the job that you would like to do, because maybe you haven't already identified what that might be, but there will be good insights on that. So start talking to people, start talking to the people around you, and see what is their reaction. Not because you need to seek for validation, but because maybe you will be surprised. Maybe they can say, oh, finally you're getting rid of that job that it makes you so anxious or make you so angry, and you don't know what's next. So give yourself the chance to have this option.
What advice would you give to someone looking to change their career?
Okay, so another advice, rather than talking to people, well, in addition to talking to people, is really, well, hire a coach. It might sound stupid, but we're here to help as coaches. So it might be easier, it might be quicker as well, and more effective. Another type of advice could be that, you can slow down. And in this situation where one day we're in lockdown, and one day everything is open, and then we're in lockdown again, so it's slowing down might be a way to look at yourself from a different perspective.
Mm. And we are coming now to the end of this episode, and it's been really nice talking to you. So the last question, if you could give yourself a piece of advice, what would you say to your younger self?
Elena, this itchiness and feeling that you're not doing the job that you like is real. So, my dear, jump before you're ready. Don't wait too long, and jump.
Oh, I really like that. I guess we all have that feeling. We know when things are not right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Elena, so much for joining us today and sharing your inspirational career change story and wisdom.
Thank you, Elisa, for having me.
And a last message to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tune in next week for a new inspirational episode of the Career Changers. Thank you.
Thanks.